Hey everybody, it's Jose from Florida Vision Technology. I'm coming to you live from our headquarters down here in sunny South Florida. I hope everybody's doing well. I know lately it's been really crazy with the whole COVID-19 situation. So Florida Vision Technology is partnering up with our different partners in the assistive technology world. Specifically today, we are teaming up with Zoommax, and I have David from Zoommax with me today. David, how are you?
Great, Jose. Thank you. Thanks for
I'm
having me.
glad to hear it. I appreciate you being here. So, David, if you could tell me, how are you doing during these crazy times? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry.
I'll try and give you the abridged version. Well, my name is David Bradburn, and as you mentioned, Jose, I work for Zoommax. So I'm actually speaking to you from cloudy Massachusetts. I live close to Boston,
Yeah.
and I, like many people, have been working from home. In terms of how I've been coping, I think reasonably well, actually. My biggest moment of desperation occurred on Sunday evening when, after 5 weeks since going to my barber, decided that I couldn't take it any longer. And I went to the bathroom cabinet. I found my hair clippers, called my wife. I don't know if that was a good thing, but called and asked for her help. And the end result is I can see my ears again.
Nice. Yeah, the whole haircut thing, man, it's been driving me crazy. I really need to go to a barber.
I do miss a lot of things. I miss going to my gym, but I got to tell you, getting my haircut every 3 weeks, which is my usual schedule, is the thing that I've missed most.
Yeah.
Everything is right with the world at this point. Other than that, I've managed to lose a couple of pounds. I'm not eating out, so that's, I guess, a bonus.
That's a bonus. Yeah, that's definitely a pro.
Other than that,
and you're healthy, so knock on some wood.
Indeed. And right now, the nice thing is that the weather's improving. So that means that we're able to at least walk outside and so forth. And so that's been good. In terms of how I got into the industry, so I know that I don't look old enough, but I actually started working in the assistive technology for people who are blind or visually impaired back in England in 1984. And at that time, I was working with Kurzweil products in England, the original Kurzweil reading machine for the blind. It was a washing machine sized.
Oh, yeah.
I often joke to people that if I have any lower back problems today, it's probably back to the Kurzweil days when I used to have to move that 300-pound box of electronics.
Jeez.
So I worked in the UK for about 10 years. I went to Mexico for about 3. Why Mexico? Well, my wife's originally from there, and after we'd lived in England for about 4 years, we decided we were going to give Mexico a try. And so I continued working in the assistive technology field, except I was doing so in Mexico and other parts of Latin America. I do speak Spanish, so I had to kind of learn a new vocabulary in terms of how to demonstrate magnifiers and reading machines in Spanish, but that was fine. Nice. And then in 1996, and actually this is about the time that I met Lisa Kretschmer from Florida Vision Technology, I was offered a job with Kurzweil, the manufacturer, here in Massachusetts. And so my family and I, we relocated to the US, and we've been in Massachusetts ever since. My guess is we've been citizens here now. We became US citizens on July 4th of 2009. That's a whole story. It was a great day. Tell you about that some other time.
Yeah.
And at this point, we're probably here for the long term. I don't think we're going to leave.
Awesome. Very cool. And what about Zoommax? Like, what can you tell us about Zoommax for people who might not know about the company?
Yeah, so Zoommax is a Chinese manufacturer. Actually, they're the largest manufacturer / assistive technology vendor in China. They've been around for 10 years at this point. They manufacture a range of handheld video magnifiers, desktop CCTVs, and for the last 2.5 years, they have been working with wearable devices, which of course is why we're all here today. The ACESIGHT, ACE like the Ace of Spades, the ACESIGHT wearable, their very first one we introduced back in 2018. And then this year, we introduced the all-new virtual reality version of ACESIGHT, and that's, of course, what we'll be looking at in detail in a few minutes. So they've been around since 2010, and then in 2018, at the beginning of that year, actually, we established the US company. And so we're a Massachusetts corporation. We're located near Boston, as I said, and we manage the sales and support and service of Zoommax products throughout North America, in fact, and working with companies, of course, like Florida Vision Technology.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, you guys are going to love the Zoommax product, or the ACESIGHT. I actually have it in my hands. I'm really excited for David to tell you about it. For those of you that can see your screen, you'll be able to see it. For those of you who cannot see your screen for whatever reason, he will give you a great detailed description of what the product looks like. But I'm holding it in my hand, and I'm loving it. It feels nice. It feels really nice. So we will talk about the ACESIGHT, and towards the end of our conversation, we will touch up on the Snow 12 and the Snow 4.3. Someone asked in the chat room, how do you spell Zoommax? That's Z as in Z, O-O-M as in Mike, A-X. Awesome. So David, yeah, let's go into this demonstration with the ACESIGHT.
Okay. So wearable devices have actually been around for about 25 years.
Wow.
Even longer than that. I was at the American Academy of Optometry last year. That event took place in Orlando. And I listened to a presentation that featured, among other people, Dr. Ellie Pelly from the Mass Eye and Ear Infirmary in Boston. And he and two other doctors were talking about the history of wearables. And they were talking about systems that were initially developed in the 1960s by NASA. Those systems had multiple cameras. They actually looked a little bit like a crash helmet. And that was the very beginning of wearable devices, like so many things, you know, developed by the military or NASA.
Yeah.
In terms of a device, though, that was repurposed for low vision, the Elvis system that was developed back in conjunction with Johns Hopkins University about 20 years ago or so, was really the very first one. And I can remember going to Johns Hopkins back in the 90s when I worked for Kurzweil at that time, and seeing one of these devices and just being blown away, thinking how amazing. But it was quite big, had a lot of image lag, which is to say when you move your head, the image wouldn't always refresh, it would kind of freeze. And by the way, speaking of freezing, I do want to mention to people, for those of you who can see the screen, occasionally there is a little bit of image lag associated with the Zoom platform. I can see the lag happening on my own computer at times, and if I do see it, I will acknowledge it. I just want you to know that it is Zoom. It's not me or something that we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of the kind of more commercially available wearable devices, there are a number out there. Most of them have used virtual reality technology. So virtual reality, most people who are not associated with this field think of virtual reality when they think of video games and things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what comes to my mind when I think of virtual reality.
Exactly. So the very first ACESIGHT, the one that we launched at the Academy of Optometry a couple of years ago, is actually an augmented reality version. I'm not showing that version today. Augmented reality is characterized by being a very open design. What that means, the biggest primary difference between augmented and virtual reality, is that if you are a visually impaired person and you have some measure of peripheral vision, you can still walk around while wearing the ACESIGHT. Virtual reality, on the other hand, and I'm holding up the ACESIGHT VR right now to the screen, is basically, I mean, if you were to describe it, it's a VR headset. So if you've ever seen VR goggles, Microsoft stores in the mall you know, have a gaming system that's using a virtual reality headset. I'm not going to put the head strap on, but I am going to just hold the mask, and I'm going to turn sideways and just hold the mask or the goggles to my face. This system is wrapping completely around the sides of my eyes on both sides. There's a small gap from my nose, and it has some kind of a foam on the inside of the mask. The strap holds it to my head, and so no light is getting in. Now that's a good thing, because if you happen to be sitting outside and it's a bright sunny day, you'll still be able to see everything just fine. With an augmented reality version, it would be completely open on the sides, so that would allow me to walk. As a disclaimer, you should not walk or run or attempt to do anything that involves movement while wearing a virtual reality headset of any brand. It's not just this product. But do not attempt it. You will feel dizzy. You could run the risk of falling over. So just a note of advice there. But in terms of virtual reality units, so the ACESIGHT is brand new. So it's using technology that has been developed, you know, within the last 6 months. As we look at the front, so I've got the unit facing. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit on this ACESIGHT. So as it's looking at you, my left, your right, in the upper corner of the device is where the camera of ACESIGHT VR is located. This camera is a 48 megapixel camera. And to put that in perspective, in terms of other virtual reality headsets that are out there for the visually impaired, the others have a 12 megapixel camera. So if we're doing math, keep up with me here, we're talking about a camera that is 4 times as strong or as powerful as other comparable devices. That translates to an image quality that I feel is the best in the market presently. In fact, I'm using, I can see the image is just frozen just a second. We'll give it a chance just to catch up. But all I was going to say is that the image that you're seeing of me on the screen, for those of you who can see, is an image that is being captured via an ACESIGHT VR. I have a second unit on a tripod that is being specially adapted to work with my computer. So now it's caught up.
40 megapixels, that's huge.
It is. And the other thing that's huge is the frame refresh rate. So why is that important? Well, image lag, and again, you see it occasionally with Zoom. It's nothing to do with the ACESIGHT. Occasionally when things get stuck and stop moving, it's usually because the refresh rate is not fast enough and the magnifier cannot keep up. So if I'm moving on the screen, you can see that everything, well, hopefully you can see, that everything is moving in real time. If there were image lag, what would happen is that as I was moving, it would stop. And actually, you can just see that there's some lag right now with Zoom again. And this is basically a good example of what image lag would be like. It wouldn't last quite this long, but it would last maybe a second. And that 1 second of image lag can be a little disruptive to the viewing experience that you're having. In any event, so this is the headset. It is a very simple design. In terms of user interface, there really isn't anything to worry about on the headset itself except for 2 things. I'm going to bring this a little closer to the camera. On the top outer shell of the ACESIGHT VR is a button. That is the on-off button. So if the device is off, you would press and hold that button for about 2 seconds. ACESIGHT will vibrate briefly, and that's an indication that it's powering on. You will see on the screen, I'll get to the screens in a second, you'll see on the screen the logo, and then it's working. The only other thing, and that's also on the top, there is a ribbed dial. This dial turns left and right, and the purpose of this dial is to establish a baseline for focus. it's going to basically move the display closer towards your eyes or further away from your eyes. And you basically turn this dial until you get to a point where the image looks clearest. In terms of what you see, so I'm just going to wait for the screen just to catch up. Okay, so I'm going to, again, just hold the device to the camera, but now I've turned it around. This is the inside view of the headset. Inside are two circular glass lenses, and each of those lenses is positioned in front of your eyes. So you look through both at the same time, and it gives you the impression that you are standing in front of a large monitor. I would say it's similar to feeling like you're standing in front of a 50-inch TV screen. It really is that. It has a very wide field of view, about 70 degrees actually. So that means you can really see a lot of the scene. So if there aren't buttons on the headset, how are we controlling ACESIGHT VR? Well, I'm glad you asked. So I'm holding in my hands the wireless Bluetooth controller that comes with ACESIGHT. This controller features two buttons on top, a joystick, and on the very front part of the joystick is a trigger button. I'll explain all of this now. So the button that is at the bottom of the controller, so if I'm holding this in my hands, I'm kind of cradling with 4 fingers underneath the belly of the controller. My thumb then falls naturally where the joystick is. The joystick controller, when I push it up and away from me, the system is increasing the magnification level. And each time I change the magnification level, a image appears in the middle of the screen telling me the magnification level, in this case, 2.4 times. It will go as large as 16 times magnification, and the lowest is 1x. In terms of the button, so the button at the very bottom, when I press that, ordinarily it's the on and off button for the controller. So if I'm done with ACESIGHT for the moment and I want to power it off, I will just press the power button on the headset, and then I will press and hold the button of the controller, and that will mean that after about 5 minutes of inactivity, the ACESIGHT will shut down for you to conserve battery. Once the unit is on, if I press this button, it's going to step through high contrast colors. And if I keep pressing it, eventually I will get into the outline modes. So outline is very good for looking at a scene and getting a sense of what's in the room. So right now we have my silhouette with a white outline. Everything is black. There's a white outline around everything. So in the background, I have pictures on the wall in my office. There's a white outline around the pictures, around the lamp, and so on. If I keep pressing the button, I now see black outlining on a white background. If I press it again, I now get black outlining on a full color image. Some people will tell us that this looks a little bit like a cartoon. But actually, there are situations, depending on the eye condition, where viewing things this way is helpful. And if I press the button one more time, it comes back around to normal color.
Nice.
The outline feature is an advanced feature. I'm going to come back and speak to that in a few minutes. I want to just finish talking about the buttons first. So if I use this bottom button and go into a high contrast mode, for example, I can press the button above it. So rather than toggling through all of the different high contrast colors, I just press the button above. It's the one immediately below the joystick, and that takes me to the normal color mode. This button also has a second mode where if I press and hold it, it will go into the menu of ACESIGHT. Again, I'm going to get to that in a second when I speak about the other advanced features. The trigger button is the last button to talk about. When I press the trigger button, I'm going to smile, and I have pressed that trigger button. It has now paused the image. So I'm deliberately pausing it here.
Nice.
It's captured an image. Now this image could be a scene like this. It could be text. It could be a sign on the wall. It could be a bus timetable. It could be a menu. It could be anything like that. And it's now frozen. I can now sit comfortably and I can move around this image and even make it larger. So if I, if I increase the magnification level, so I'm up to 2.8 times, I can now use my joystick to pan left and right. And hopefully for those of you who are able to see my image, you can see it moving. So I can just kind of scroll up and down and move things around.
That's so cool.
So I press that trigger one more time, and now we're back to the live view. So in terms of using ACESIGHT, if you've configured ACESIGHT to be the magnification level that you want, you actually don't need to even hold the controller any longer. Just put that on the table or put it in a pocket or something like that, and just wear the headset. It's going to be fine. You don't have to be holding anything while you're using this. So it's great for hands-free activities where you want to use your hands to do something. So I said I was going to talk about the advanced features of ACESIGHT a little bit. So I'm going to take...
David, before you go into the advanced features, just for like our TVIs, or if we have other assistive technology specialists who are visually impaired that might be showing this product or might advise people to check it out, can you give them an idea of what a 70-degree field of view looks like in front of them? That way they have something to compare it to?
Sure. Well, think about it this way. Peripherally, I mean, if I stretch out my hands left and right, that's 180 degrees from left to right. I'm holding out my hands completely, you know, in a line. Mm-hmm. If I try and look peripherally, if I'm kind of wiggling my fingers, I can just about make out movement to my left and right. So I could say I'm someone with essentially normal vision, that I can pretty much see a field of 180 degrees.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking about 70 degrees, I'm going to bring my arms in about halfway between being all the way out and being right in front of me. So I'm about here. Okay. So that's about 70 degrees. But bear in mind that that field of view only exists at minimum magnification. If I increase the zoom of the ACESIGHT, so I'm going up to, let's see, 3x or something like that. Mm-hmm. So now, in fact, I've gone even further. I'm at max. And I'm going to zoom out. That was too far. Okay, I'm at 4.1 times magnification. Now, all of a sudden, the amount of space that I'm seeing, so I've just zoomed out. If what we're seeing in my room is 70-degree field of view, so I can see 3 pictures on the wall behind me rather. I can see the window to my backyard behind me as well. If I zoom in to 1.2x, if I keep going, I'm now at 1.6x. All of a sudden, I'm seeing 1 fewer pictures on the wall, and I'm not seeing my window looking out to my back garden anymore, because it has reduced the overall field, because of course we're magnifying and we don't have an unlimited size screen. So that's what happens. So that's what we talk about field of view. Is that helpful?
Yes, very. Thank you.
Sure. So advanced features. I do want to say before I get there, there's actually an intermediate feature, and that is with regards to high contrast. So I'm going into this high contrast mode. When I'm in high contrast and move the joystick left and right, I can actually adjust the intensity of the high contrast. Now, you're not normally looking at a person in a high contrast mode. High contrast is ideal, or I would say ideal, for when you are reading. So all we're doing is, so the joystick is up and down for increase or decrease zoom, and when you're in high contrast mode, turn the joystick left or right to increase or decrease the contrast of things that you're seeing. If you're in that outline mode that I was speaking about before and you move the joystick left or right, it will make lines appear thicker or thinner depending on the direction that you move it. And the idea here is that each individual, I mean, even if 2 people seemingly have the same eye condition, you might have ACESIGHT configured very differently. because we are ultimately all different. So I'm going to go into the menu. So there are 5 things in the menu. And what we see, and this is displaying on the screen now, there are 5 icons or images on the screen. The one that is first on the left-hand side is where we can configure our favorite magnification level. What does that mean? Well, if after some experimenting with the device, you determined that 5 times magnification is what works best for you, I would go into this, this mode, and I would choose the, hang on, let me just get to a magnification level that I want. Okay, I'm going to leave it at 5.6. And now I'm going to select this. So now I'm outside of the menu and I want to get to my favorite or preferred zoom level. All I do is that middle button on the top of the controller, I do a double tap. And when I do a double tap, it immediately goes to my favorite magnification level of 5.6. So you don't have to worry about zooming in and out. You just do that. Nice. Something else to say. So right now it's zooming in. I have to say I feel pretty uncomfortable seeing myself this large. But I'm now magnified in. If I press and hold the trigger button, this gives us access to the find feature. So the idea is that with the find feature, you would be moving your ACESIGHT around to look at something, and then when you are zooming in on, well, not when you are zooming in, when you are ready, when you think you've found what you want, you let go of the trigger and Zoommax, sorry, the ACESIGHT will automatically zoom in to the new area of focus for you. So that can be really helpful when you're in a large room, and let's say you're looking for a clock on a wall or a photograph on the mantle or something like that. Using that find feature to reduce the zoom will make it a little easier to kind of get your bearings of where you are, because if you've used anything like ACESIGHT before, when you zoom in on something very large, even small movements of the head can result in a large movement in terms of the magnifying field. Let's go back into the menu. So as I move the joystick, then the second option in the menu is brightness. Now, when I go in here, there is a horizontal line of boxes. When I move the joystick left or right, the boxes either fill in with yellow, or if I move them left, they turn white. What that does is, as I move to the left and you see fewer boxes, that means the system is going to be less bright than normal. The default is actually in the middle at level 3 out of 5. Why would you change the brightness level? Well, the only time where I've actually found this to be a good thing to do is when I'm watching television in a dark room. Let's say it's nighttime, my wife and I are in front of the TV, I'm going to watch a movie, and just because it makes for a more cinematic experience, I'm going to turn the lights out while we watch it. When doing that, you will probably find that decreasing the brightness of the ACESIGHT will be helpful. The TV anyway is a backlit display, so you don't have to worry about the brightness in terms of the TV looking great. It's going to look awesome, believe me. But that's what this means. Now, when I accept it, it exits out of the menu. Because I'm actually transmitting the output of the ACESIGHT VR to my computer, excuse me, adjusting the brightness doesn't have any effect here on Zoom. But trust me that if you're wearing the ACESIGHT and you make the adjustments to brightness, you will notice. The third option in the menu is relating to the high contrast colors. So what this allows me to do is to show or hide high contrast colors from the system. There are 4 high contrast colors available to you: white on black, black on white, yellow on black, and black on yellow. And so if I exit from the menu right now, and I'm stepping through the high contrast. So here is the white on black, black on white, yellow, and so on. But if you have determined using ACESIGHT VR that the only high contrast color that makes sense to you is white on black, well, then you may as well hide the other ones. And at least that way, when you're stepping through the different modes, you don't have to press the button 3 more times than you need. So it's just for convenience, really. The fourth option is something called narrow mode. Now, narrow mode is not for everybody. I'll explain what I mean. If you are someone with a macular-based eye disease and you have some peripheral vision, you probably are not a candidate for narrow mode. But if you are someone who has retinitis pigmentosa or late-stage glaucoma and you do not have peripheral vision, in fact, you struggle to see anything past, let's say, a 10 or 15 degree field of view, what that means is that when you're wearing a device like ACESIGHT VR and looking at things, you're only going to see a small amount of what the screen is currently showing you, which means you're missing out on information. And that also means then that you have to move your head progressively further left or right to see everything. That's where narrow mode can help. So right now on the screen, I'm in the menu for narrow mode, and there is an image on the screen of 3 trees. The image is unimportant. It's just to show you the maximum size of the screen. So right now it's set up for the entire screen. But if I reduce that image, I can make it very small indeed. In fact, right now I've reduced the overall scene to about 25% of the total available space on the display. When I exit now from normal mode, for those of you who can see, whereas before we were taking up a large portion of the screen to show what we were looking at, now we're only seeing a small picture. That picture is in the middle of the available screen on the ACESIGHT. But there are other types of eye conditions that can benefit from this as well, and that is if you have a scotoma on your retina that prevents you from seeing things in the middle of your line of sight, but you say having things at 3 o'clock helps, well, guess what? I can actually take my image, I can move it left, right, up, or down, and I basically move it to an area where I can see. And so I'm just moving this image around all over the place right now. But I'm going to move it all the way over to the right. I'm going to exit, and now my image is only displaying on the right-hand side of the screen. So this helps you to kind of, even if you have a scotoma or something like that, you can be looking straight ahead, and we're taking advantage of the area of sight that you have, that you can use the most from. Even when I've done this, I can still magnify. So if you have a low visual acuity, in addition to having a limited field of view, don't worry, you can still magnify within this small window. What this narrow mode means is that for someone who does have a limited field of view, it can be the difference between looking at someone and only seeing an eye or a nose or some other small part of the face, or seeing the entire face. And that's possible with narrow mode. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that off. Let's just go back and make it bigger again. And now we're back to the full screen. So that's essentially it in terms of the ACESIGHT use and how you kind of operate the device. So if you're watching the recording of this presentation, consider yourself fully trained in ACESIGHT. It really is more complicated than that.
There you go.
Changing the contrast, and then your outline mode and your narrow mode are basically the functions of the device.
So David, if you don't mind, Where do you see people mainly using ACESIGHT, like outside of their homes? Or do you see that a lot of people are using it in their professions? Are they using it in their education? You know, are most of the users using it at home to do things like watch television? Like, where do you see a lot of people taking advantage of the features of ACESIGHT?
Well, it's a great question. The short answer is that it's being used in all of the above. There isn't
Nice.
really kind of a right or a wrong way to use this. At the end of the day, if you
Mm,
are visually impaired and you want to use this for watching television, it's going to work great for you. If you're visually impaired and you're in the workplace and you want to use ACESIGHT to access any computer in the workplace without worrying about whether that computer is accessible, it's going to
mm,
work. Um, in terms of the schools, this product was all introduced and it was right in line with schools the nation over shutting down and becoming virtual classrooms. So we haven't had much experience so far with visually impaired students using ACESIGHT VR.
mm.
Although I will add that if they are doing distance learning over the internet with students, one benefit of something like ACESIGHT VR is that it means that anything that's delivered online to them is going to be accessible because the student can basically look at any program, any information on screen and enlarge it. In terms of outside use, so I preface the demonstration by reminding everybody that you should not attempt to walk or otherwise be moving around while wearing this device. That's true. However, once you are outside and you've gotten to where you need to be, so for example, last week we were recording a video here at home and I went outside on my deck in my backyard. It was a beautiful sunny day and I was just out there just enjoying being outside, and the image quality was amazing. I was zooming in on things that were 100 feet away from me, and it looked great. So
Wow.
in terms of things that you can't do, again, it's don't walk, don't run, definitely don't drive, please. If you're wearing this device, it's not designed for that, but you can be a passenger in a car and be wearing this. You could be in a movie theater and using this to look at the screen. You could be at the theater watching a play of some description and use it for that. It works extremely well in dim light conditions, which is worth noting because, you know, the augmented reality technology, which we also have for our other model of ACESIGHT, works great when lighting is great. Doesn't work so well when the lighting is dim. Lighting is always important. Good lighting is always important when you have low vision. It's probably one of the first things that you should consider looking at, actually. But like most people, if I go into my living room at nighttime, I have one lamp behind me and that's it, because usually I'm not reading or doing anything that requires a lot of light. This device still works for that. I have worn the ACESIGHT, as have some of our customers, doing other activities in the home. We have customers that are playing musical instruments. We have one customer that told us that he plays different models of harmonica, and so he uses the ACESIGHT to read the sheet music while he's playing.
Nice.
Cooking is possible. You know, obviously, exercise caution when you're doing anything that can cause injury. So if you're going to be handling a hot tray and putting it in and out of the oven when you're making cookies at home, you know, make sure you're doing things like wearing an oven glove. ACESIGHT doesn't make you invincible, but it will allow you to kind of look at some of the things that require attention to detail, looking at timers, you know, reading recipes, that sort of thing. It's good for all of those things.
Wow. Very nice. So we have a few questions in the chat. Someone's asking about the price of the ACESIGHT. If you go ahead and you shoot us an email at headquarters@floridareading.com, we would love to get back to you on that. You know, Florida Vision Technology, we work with different agencies, organizations, and people from around our territory. So if you go ahead and shoot us an email, we would definitely get back to you on that. Someone else asked about support and warranties. So if someone purchases this device, what type of warranties would they get with this, David?
Excellent question. So like all products from Zoommax, ACESIGHT comes with a 2-year warranty. We actually have 3 repair centers in the US. We have one near Atlanta, Georgia. We have one in Northern California, and we have another one in Massachusetts, not too far from our office. Of course, we're also able to do the servicing ourselves. I will say I don't anticipate much in the way of service for these devices. They're pretty straightforward in terms of what's there. So, I mean, we'll see. But certainly the service is available. In terms of support, well, if you need technical support, that's available, I'm sure, through Florida Vision Technology.
Yeah. Yeah. Any products that we sell through our company, we provide customer service, technical support. All you have to do is give us a call, send us an email, and we respond in a timely manner. And we have 2 different store locations on the East Coast and West Coast of Florida. So if you want to come in for training, or you want to come in for tech support, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Right.
Another person asked in the chat, how long can you wear the device before it feels heavy on your head?
That is a great question.
That's a really good question.
It's a great question, Jose, because usually when we go to conferences like ATIA or something like that, and people come along and they try these devices, they try them for about 2 minutes if they're lucky, right? So of course, any device is going to feel comfortable for 2 minutes. But how long? I will tell you that the longest that I have worn ACESIGHT VR for at the moment has been about 2 hours. I used it to watch a movie on TV.
Yeah, since that's enough time to watch a movie.
Yeah, so the device weighs under 1 pound. It's 0.8 pounds to be precise. If the head strap is adjusted properly, the weight distribution is pretty good. But I'm a full-grown man. I'm pretty fit. I'd be lying if I told you that it felt as comfortable after 2 hours as it did after 2. But I also wasn't feeling so uncomfortable that I wanted to take it off either. The ACESIGHT also has, and this speaks to how long it's going to be before you feel uncomfortable, has an extremely low or cool operating temperature. Now, if I go out on my deck in the middle of summer and it's 95 degrees outside, this device is black. It is going to absorb heat. So if I'm in full sun using this, my guess is it's going to get pretty warm after a while. But when I'm using this at home, I've touched the front of this device. Usually if you feel any heat, it's going to be on the front. Mm-hmm. I've touched the front of this device even after a couple of hours. Is it warm? Well, I can tell something's on, but it's never hot. It's never so warm that you're thinking, wow, that's going to cause me to perspire. It's really pretty good. So your mileage, though, is going to vary in terms of how long it's going to be before you find it uncomfortable. I think for most of us, if you were wearing this for an hour at a time and then maybe taking a break, I would think that would be doable for most people. The only thing that I would say is if you have never worn a headset before, then you may need to use it a couple of times before you really get used to it. But certainly the feedback we've gotten from customers is that the comfort has not been something people have been concerned about.
Yeah, and then another thing is to consider, everybody deals with their vision differently. So someone who has macular might be able to use this for, I don't know, maybe an hour before their eyes get tired, and someone who has the same eye condition, maybe 30 minutes, 2 hours. Everybody's going to respond to the devices differently. Another question in the chat is asking, how long is the battery life?
So the battery life is about, it's at least 3.5 hours of continuous use.
3.5?
3.5 hours.
Okay.
The device comes with a USB cable. There is a charging port on the right-hand side of the device. It is a USB Type-C interface. That means that it doesn't matter whether the cable is one way or the other, it's going to go in. It comes with a USB plug. So if I was using this device for an extended period of time, for example, I'm here at my computer or I'm watching TV, I might suggest that you actually leave the device plugged in while you wear it. You're clearly going to be seated if you're at your computer or watching TV, but at least that way, you're not going to be worried about the battery running out. And I would also add, relative to the battery, that if I'm not using the device, I would leave it plugged in all the time. And that way, when you do go to pick it up and put it on, your device is always going to be fully charged, and you know you're at least going to get half a day of use from it. If you're not using it continuously, that is to say, I used it for 30 minutes, I'm preparing a meal in the kitchen, and I'm using it to read the recipe and see what I'm doing, and then I switch it off and put it down, and then after 5 minutes, the device is going to go into sleep mode to conserve the battery. So, depending on your needs, it's conceivable that the ACESIGHT could last all day between charges for you.
Yeah, and I really like when the device is in its case, on the right side of the device, like if you're wearing it, on the right side of the case where you plug in the charger, when you're wearing that charger, I mean, from the positioning of this, it's not going to be like getting wrapped around your ears or getting in your way. It's off to the side. So when you're wearing this, it's probably a really, really comfortable fit. And another thing I like about this device is that, I'm holding it in my hands right now, and on the front of it, it's sealed in. So you're not going to take this out of its case. You're not going to accidentally drop it or anything like that. It's all sealed in. It's nice. It's secure. I mean, it feels really good. It feels really good. Someone else asked, what about reading books and newspapers?
I'm going to get to the books and newspaper answer in just 1 second, but I want to just make one more comment about batteries.
Yeah.
I don't know if for those people that can see, if you have any clue what it is I'm holding in my hand. This is a external battery pack with a USB port. This particular brand of battery that I have is made by Anker, A-N-K-E-R. This is a 20 million hour battery. I can actually, well, if this is fully charged, I could run an iPad for a week. But I can use this device to also charge and maintain a charge in the ACESIGHT as well. So if you are someone looking at a magnifier like this and you are in a position where you're going to be traveling, let's say you're going to be on a long road trip, you could plug this into a battery pack like that and then potentially extend the use of ACESIGHT for several hours beyond its 3.5 hour continuous use. All right, moving on to reading. So let's see, I have a brochure. 1 second, let me get something for us to read.
Awesome. So while he's doing that, yeah, this is a really nice device, guys. For those of you who were not able to actually physically see the device on the screen, I mean, when I'm holding it in my hands, it feels nice and solid. Like I said, the front of it is covered, so you don't have to worry about the device falling out the case. The camera on the front of it, you can feel where the indentation is for the camera. Turning it on and off, simple. On the top edge, you have the power button. Like you say, you just press and hold it, turns the device on. And then you have your focus wheel. So when you first put on the device, you're going to move that focus wheel. That way you get the clearest picture in the device that you can get. Straps over your head and around the back side of your head. I mean, it's really nice. It's comfortable. Holding it, it doesn't feel very heavy in my hands at all. And again, that charging port's on the right side of it. So if you are happening to watch television or look at your computer screen and you want to charge it while using it, that wire is not going to get in your way. It's very cool. Awesome.
Okay, so I just got an ACESIGHT brochure, just something to read. So I'm holding the page. I don't have a ruler, but I'm going to guess I'm about 18 to 20 inches away from the ACESIGHT. And so I have the text here. And so if I want to, I can either use the controller to zoom in on the text. All right, so here's the text. If I want to, I can turn on the high contrast mode. And remember what I was saying before, that if I need to, I can increase or decrease the contrast. So as I increase, the letters of the text get darker or thicker. The other thing, if I didn't want to keep kind of zooming in and out, is I can simply move the text in towards the camera until it looks about the size that I need. But let's speak about reading and what that means. So if what I'm doing is I've got a book that I want to read, my personal and professional opinion is that I don't think reading for long periods of time with a wearable device like ACESIGHT is the best use of this technology. I think it is exceptionally good for spot reading. You get your mail, you get a flyer, you've got a recipe, you've got a setup guide for a piece of technology that you've just bought. I think it's great for those sorts of things. But for newspapers and magazines and books, I'm not so sure. Why do I feel that way? Well, ask yourself this question. When you magnify text, what do you think your reading speed is? Now, I actually don't know what my reading speed is when I'm reading quietly to myself, but I would guess that it's probably, could be close to 200 words a minute. I don't know, maybe it's faster than that. But if I have to magnify things and take the time to kind of, move around the screen because it's in large print, maybe my reading speed comes down to 50 words a minute. And again, these are just for the sake of this conversation. I have no idea what it would be, but I'm sure it's slower. Well, if it's slower, then you need to ask yourself, well, how long is it going to take me to read the front page of the local newspaper? And I'm not saying this to kind of, pour water over this whole idea of a wearable, because it is great for so many things. I just think that if you've got a lot of reading to do, and especially with books, there are talking reading machine products that Florida Vision Technology, I'm sure, distributes and would be happy to speak to you about, that I think are more appropriate for that type of activity. But as you just saw with the example of when I'm reading, and by the way, let's do this. So I've got my page here, and now I'm going to freeze the image. This is another time where you'd be freezing things. So I'm going to zoom in on the text. So if you were going to read, and even if you were going to be reading in high contrast, you can come here and then use the joystick to kind of move around. Still going to be slower than if you were having this spoken to you, but that's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually really good for, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Snow 12 and the Snow 4.3 towards the end. So that might be another type of device that you might want to use for reading. But yeah, here at Florida Vision Technology, we provide many different solutions for different reading tasks.
Are there any other questions on the chat, Jose?
So if you don't mind, David, can we talk about the Snow 12 and the Snow 4.3 just for a little bit?
Absolutely. Let me get the Snow 4.3 from the other side of the room.
All right. And then, we're coming to the top of the hour, guys. So we will have David back on with us in the future to talk more in depth about these products, the ones that he's getting right now.
Okay. So I have in my hands, this is the Snow 4.3. It is the smallest and lightest and probably the easiest to use handheld magnifier that we manufacture. This device has been available now for about 5 years or so. It is, again, very lightweight, very simple to use. On the top, there are just 3 buttons. Button that's at the top, and it sticks out. So you can, even if you're very severely visually impaired, you'll be able to feel these buttons quite easily. So zoom in is at the top, zoom out is at the bottom, and in the middle is a button that toggles through the different high contrast color modes, so you get the one that you want. On the top of the device, there are 2 buttons. There's a blue one on your left. That's the on-off button. You do a long press to switch it on, a long press to switch it off. The white button over on your right is the freeze button or camera button, and it allows you to just take an image of something that you are looking at. When I switch this device on, and I am going to do that just now, so it comes up, it shows the Zoommax logo, and if I turn it around, I'm not going to point it directly at the screen, but you'll see that there are 4 LED lights over on one side of the Snow 4.3. if I were using this for reading, I would actually place the magnifier directly on top of whatever I'm trying to read. In fact, I can see that the image has just frozen momentarily. So I'm now holding it. So the magnifier is directly on top of the paper, and I'm moving the magnifier left and right and up or down to see what it is that I'm looking at. It is worth pointing out that the Snow 4.3 is great for someone that needs a very portable solution. It'll fit in your pocket. It's lightweight. It's not going to feel heavy. I think my car keys actually weigh more than this device. I got so many keys on it. But you can also put this in a jacket pocket, in your purse or pocketbook or something like that. It's really convenient. Nice. But it is not designed for distance viewing. So this isn't a magnifier that you're going to use for walking around the supermarket and holding it up to look at signs in the air or something like that. There are other magnifiers we make and that Florida Vision Technology offer that can provide that level of functionality. But it's a really affordable price. Jose can certainly help answer any inquiries about it. Mm-hmm. It's a great little product, and just like the ACESIGHT and our other products, comes with a 2-year warranty. I think it's a really great value.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. And the Snow 12?
So I'm holding in my hands then the Snow 12. This is the largest. I don't know, I'm going to hesitate to call this a handheld magnifier, even if I am holding it in my hands. It weighs a pound, so a little heavier than a Snow 4.3. You can, though, hold the device in your hands, and as I'm holding it, actually, the camera is at the back, and I could be holding this device and just moving it. However, there's a little clasp at the bottom. When I press it, I'm going to turn this sideways. Maybe those people that can see it. There's a foot stand that opens, and if I place this on the table, you can maybe just about make it out. In fact, I'm going to just turn the ACESIGHT to, hang on a second. Sorry, looking at the light switch. Okay, there we go. So I'm just showing you now that it's now on the table. If I had my reading material underneath, I'm going to switch on the Snow 12 real quick. Oh, this one's flat. We'll reserve that for another day. But all I was going to say is that this has a 12-inch screen. It's actually a really beautiful looking display, really, really great image. The buttons, they are physical buttons on the device. So even if you are severely visually impaired, you don't have to worry about finding buttons on the screen. You just press the, excuse me, I pressed a button on my ACESIGHT for a second there. So there are buttons for zooming in and out. There's a button for high contrast. But this device is special because it also includes OCR and speech. So, you know, we were talking about the reading before. Hang on, I think I switched something off. Hang on a second.
Yeah, the Snow 12 is a really cool device, guys, especially the OCR feature on there. So you have magnification and a device that reads to you all in one.
I'm going to switch to a different camera. 1 second. Okay, let me, there we go. So what I wanted to do was just to kind of show, I've got a different camera here. So now we're looking at the foot stand of the Snow. And so I'll just put this camera around here. Sorry, I'm not trying to make everyone car sick.
Luckily for me, I can't see, so.
So all I wanted to say is then, so with the Snow 12, so it does have this OCR and speech, and it has it actually for 20 languages. So you can either leave it in an automatic mode, and it will determine whether the language is English or Spanish or some other language, and it will then speak with the appropriate voice to pronounce the words correctly. But Snow 12 is also available with a foldable stand, and the foldable stand basically allows the device to be raised off the table about 10 inches. And that allows you to kind of use the Snow 12 in a similar fashion to a kind of a conventional desktop CCTV. That is to say, the device is in the air, and you are then using your reading material and moving the material underneath the camera of Snow 12. It's also great for writing because it is raised off. And the other thing that I would say about Snow 12, especially for anyone that is working with students who are visually impaired, is that Snow 12 has several gigabytes of memory storage. I can connect this magnifier to a Windows computer, and if I have accessible curriculum in PDF format, for example, I can copy those textbooks into the memory of the Snow 12, give the Snow 12 to the student. They don't even need the physical book anymore. They simply go into the document gallery in Snow 12, open up their biology book or whatever it is they're studying right now, and be able to either magnify that PDF image. The image quality looks exceptional, of course, or go into the text-to-speech mode and convert that PDF into a speakable document. So it's really good, and I think especially as schools are adjusting to online learning, and it's happening all over the country, I think that's a feature that could be really, really helpful to people.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. So like I said, I want to do another one of these webinars in the future, specifically on the Snow 12 and the Snow 4.3. I think that'd be very useful for people to be able to see with a little more time. But we're past 11 o'clock, so I think we're going to wrap it up. David, I appreciate you so much for joining us today. You did an awesome presentation on the device. We got a lot of questions answered, a lot of information. I think everybody that's here can agree that you know, we've seen how many different uses we could use for this, whether we're a student, a professional, or someone that just wants to watch television at home. You know, there's so many cool things that we can do with these devices. So I really appreciate you being here today. I'm looking forward to doing more of these with you.
Thank you, Jose, and thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend, whatever you're doing.
Awesome. So I'm Jose from Florida Vision Technology. This is David from Zoommax, and we are signing out.